I need you to do me a favor. I know you just got here and I'm sorry, but please just humor me. Try and think back to when you were younger and try and think if there were any shows that you were watching that everybody in your house managed to agree on. Sports don't count. That's a whole other thing unto itself, especially coming from someone like me. But really try and think. For me, there was really only one show. Luckily, this one show would also run ungodly long marathons, leaving you plenty of time to find a segment that actually catches your attention. Now, you've likely seen this show, and because this is YouTube and you're not watching me make this video live, you know the show I'm talking about is How It's Made. This is Cool Stuff Quickly. Engage thrusters. Canada has given us a lot of things. Some better, some worse. But I think this show stands at the pinnacle of better things that they've given us. How It's Made, or
Comment c'est fait?
That, was a Canadian-born show that landed in the United States on January 6, 2001. The show is a documentary-style show, usually consisting of 3 to 4 segments that ran about 5 minutes each. Now, lengths of the script would depend on the item, but usually it was 4 5-minute segments compiled into one show. Now, this show covered anything and everything. And you may think, if you haven't somehow seen How It's Made, that I might be exaggerating, but I promise you I'm not. I'd say 70% of the items on How It's Made I've never heard of, or would never think to see the production of said item. But the items that do catch your interest, you seem to soak in all that information. Like, I dare you to ask me about what goes into the production of a fire hydrant. I'll be spitting facts so fast you throw up, dog. The show doesn't have an on-screen host, and the scripts are as identical as possible throughout the different languages that the show is shot in, so that the show remains essentially identical all over. I think the biggest difference is the size measurements between imperial and metric, but the show has remained mostly unchanged for most of its lifespan. There was a segment called Historical Capsule that ran until season 5 of the show, which was a video of a single line drawing that would give more historical background on the product or the manufacturing of the product. And that segment was replaced with what was called the Techno Flash, but the Techno Flash only lasted about 2 seasons. So in 2007 is when some, I guess, bigger changes came to the show. The first being that the show introduced its new intro, and the biggest part, I think, to me that was changed was a man named Zach Fine took over for the then narrator Brooks Moore. Zach did 2 seasons of the show and then was replaced again with Brooks Moore, who then drove the show home. I wonder how you get a gig like that. I wonder how It's Made is made. Is there a way to learn this knowledge? There must be a way to figure this out. Maybe you would know. How did you go about getting the gig for How It's Made?
Well, that's a long story. One of the things was I picked up some work at Discovery Channel because a client of ours, a production company client, went bankrupt. So I started working there, producing editing in the evening. And another editor was working on a show. And the show was what we call a reversion, meaning that it's a show they might have bought from the BBC, they bring to the US and they have to put the commercial breaks in it. And the show is about Leonardo da Vinci. And typically the editor will read the scripts from the producer to kind of like get it straight until they finally get the script right, and then they bring in the big VO guns. So I read a scratch track. You know, these guys like, I don't do that too well. I said, I'll give it a shot. And I mixed it in with all the sound effects. And the producer heard it, and he happened to be in charge of production and the general manager of the Science Channel. And he's like, oh, that's Brooks. Oh, yeah, I like his voice. Yeah. So he reached out to me and said, Brooks, I already have someone lined up for this show, but I'd like to use you on other shows. So that's how it got started. And a month later, I did my first show, which was about the Monitor, which was a Civil War ironclad that
Hmm.
was brought up in the river down in Virginia. So that was my first time on the air, and then that led into a couple years later. He said, "I want you to do How It's Made," and I said, "Okay," and it took off from there.
It's been an amazing fit. I can't honestly picture anybody else doing it. I grew up as a fan of radio. I'm a Patriots fan, and we were lucky enough to have a guy named Gil Santos who had this just incredible voice. Another one, similar to yours, where I could pick it out of a crowd of thousands just instantly. Did you know that How It's Made was gonna just like become the show it was, eventually going to become?
No, and that's the funny thing. So Steve told me, "Look, we have this show. It's produced in Canada, and Discovery Canada has it, and they say it's doing really well. So we're thinking about bringing it on into the U.S. on Discovery, and I'd like you to, be the narrator of it, and let's see how it goes." And so, man, there was no expectation whatsoever. And I think what helped the show was that it was a simple show, 4 segments, no fancy hosts or someone doing stuff or whatever. It was just a basic show with basic music. And it first started, it was funny because it was done in Canada. I guess they just used Canadian things like, so hockey sticks, hockey pucks. That was like really popular the first season. But then, the show picked up and they were all over the world and doing segments. And so that's how it started. And nobody knew. He didn't know that it was going to be big. He heard it did well up there, but you never know. The U.S. market can be a different ballgame.
For sure. Yeah, I can. I mean, like you said, it's the simplicity, I think, is what appealed to everybody. Because I mean, I remember, sitting in the living room, and it's like my dad, me, my sister, and it's like I'm the middle one, so it's like it's like 3 age groups, and we're all just totally zoned in on this, the 5-hour Science Channel How It's
Right.
Made marathons, and
Right.
it's like my dad's tuned in for 3.5 hours of it already. So it's awesome. Do you have like a favorite like clip that you narrated, like a favorite, I guess, like item, or like, because I know you've done like the supercar episodes and stuff as well. So
That was a lot of fun. The How It's Made Dream Cars series, that was really neat to do because you would do one car for a whole half hour. But there was so many different things. I guess some things that I thought were kind of gross was things to eat. This stuff I think they do in Europe called haggis, which is like, I don't even remember, but it's
big
like,
in
I don't
Ireland.
think I want that,
Yeah.
But I mean, it just all the different stuff from eyeballs, literally, like if you lost your eyeball and you needed an eye to put in,
Yep.
someone hand painted that, and that was really something else. And just there's so many different things. It was such a awesome experience to be a part of it.
That's awesome. So do you like watch the clip and then voice over it, or do they just kind of edit to the script essentially?
So what happens is the show comes in, they have the script. In the US, the producer goes over the script and takes out any Canadianisms that are in it. And I watch the whole show, and then I read the script. We used to do it, I would read the script to picture. But because the timing isn't, really super critical, I just read the script. And the producer's listening to me the whole time. And I typically read one segment at a time. And then after I read like the first segment, we'll go back and do pickups on that first segment and maybe fix anything that I might have said wrong or, stumbled on a word, something like that. And then we go on to the next segment. So that's how it is. And, these things you always have, like you could say the producer's your coach.
Mhm.
Although I've had a lot of different producers over the years because it just changes around. They've never said you have to do the show differently. So I kind of came up with my style for the show and wasn't really directed in any particular way and continued with that. And one of the things that's kind of hard to do is really working on your voice so you can stay consistent from season 1 to season 29, and
Exactly.
because they run the stuff all over the place, back to back. I mean, I saw on Amazon the other day that there was like a How It's Made channel that's just like all day long How It's Made
Yep.
episodes. So, you try to be consistent and really keep that voice. Now, one thing that happens is people then think that that is you and that is your only voice. And a lot of the documentaries I did before were all different kind of styles and different feels and things like that. But How It's Made is today on How It's Made: washing machines,
Yeah.
dryers, baseballs, and bats.
Yep.
So that's like always the show open today
Yeah,
on
you're
How
never
It's
going to
Made.
speak with that sort of cadence out in the real
Right.
world.
So I mean, it's been fun, and over the years, people contact me, they find me because they see my name in the credits and send an email, and I've called kids on their birthday or on Christmas before, and it's fun to interact with the audience because they don't know what you look like,
Mm.
and all they know is your voice. So if they make an effort to find out the guy that's doing the voice, I'm like, hey, I'll reach out to them. Fans are awesome. They really are awesome. And they've what made the show successful all these years.
Well,
Like
I
you.
really, I appreciate you reaching out to me. I know I initially, reached out to you on TikTok, and I guess that kind of rolls into my next one. Like, were you surprised at how well your TikToks were received? I mean, I remember seeing the announcement TikTok, and I was like, oh my God, he's finally got one. And then, I think to you reading A Christmas Story a few days before Christmas and stuff like that. Like, are you surprised, or is it like, are you sort of taken aback by everybody being like, "Duh, it's him. I see the guy now." Like the wall has essentially come down.
I'm just a humble person. And when you're a voice person, no one knows when you walk into some restaurant or, people just don't know. So I was always afraid to say, someone would say, oh, what do you do? Well, I'm like a producer director and I do some voice work, but I never used to say, because I was like, yeah, I don't want to come off And so, but I realized that that was just my problem. And people really like to know that, hey, oh, I've seen that show. That's you? Are you serious? I'm
Mhm.
like, yeah, that's me. So I was shocked, honestly, about TikTok and how it blew up. And because that was like the first social media thing I tried. Yeah, I have a social media account on Facebook, but I've never worked on that. And the TikTok just blew to pieces. And it's fun to do. I really enjoy it. I love the fans, what they write in, the comments they make. I try to respond to every single person if I can. And it's fun. It's fun to interact with the people that really appreciated what you did.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I was so excited to see you on there because it's just it needed something. I was like, this is what it needed. It needed Brooks more. But okay. So I know that before the end of every episode, usually they have some sort of like quippy pun. Is there a favorite of yours?
Oh my gosh. That is like, people would say, what that pun, oh my, and I'm thinking like they must have really hated it. No, they love them. I can't even tell you a favorite of mine. There's been so many different ones. I'd have to go back and look at some scripts for sure.
That's so funny.
Because, it's like, it's this crazy pun and you've got to read it in some kind of way that, doesn't sound stupid, but does, right?
I mean, yeah, of course.
So
Yeah.
it's been great. Yeah.
That's so funny. Well, awesome. So, all right. So before we get out of here, I know that you wanted to talk about your latest project, which is called Unleash Your Voice, which is a course for actors, podcasters, hosts, and professionals who want to improve their vocal techniques and harness the power of their voice. Tell me more about that.
So I created a course called Unleash Your Voice, and it's a free course. It's you can just go to brooksmore.com and sign up for it. We're having playback this weekend. And one of the neat things about it, so many people wrote in, I didn't realize this on TikTok, how did you get started? I want to do voice. Do you think I have a good enough voice? Or I'd see someone say, hey, you have a really unique voice. So everybody is unique. And I don't try to make people sound like Brooks Moore. I like to try to help people sound their best. So, Justin, I would try to help you sound the best you could, Justin, not Brooks Moore. That's not the point. And the point is really learning how some of the techniques of breathing, getting in that mindset. You know, when I come in a booth and I'm reading another How It's Made script, I can't be, maybe I had a bad day in the morning. Maybe I got in an argument with my wife. Maybe the dog ran away. I've got to put all that out of my mind and really focus on this is where I am and this is where I'm going with this show, just like I've done 200 other times. And so getting in that mindset, working on breathing techniques so that you're not winded in the middle of a sentence, working on using a cork to help improve your diction. And you put a cork in your mouth and you talk with it without your tongue, without your lips touching the cork, and you basically build your muscles on your lips. And, the voice, that's a muscle. So, and then what we do is we go through actual scripts, and people can bring in their own scripts, or I have some scripts I've written that we practice with. And I don't ever give you how I'm going to do it until the very end. So the classes are really small, and we work through the room, and each person gives the script a read through. And the beautiful thing is you hear everyone else's interpretation. You think, I like the way that guy said that last line, the way he closed that. And then we go through it again. Okay, here's another interpretation. Then I'll start giving you feedback. I felt you rushed through that particular part. Let's try to slow that down and really get the meaning and the feel to this. And I just feel like the more you can do with your voice, you can create so much impact to others when you speak to them, whether it's in a podcast, voiceover job, audiobook, or if you're presenting. Look at some of the top people that are in history that have spoken and the words they used and how they sounded. And it's just learning the ability and getting the ability and learning about it to be able to create the craft of unleashing your voice to make an impact with what you're talking about.
That's awesome. That's really cool. That would be, because also, even myself, that's something that, I should look into. I've done slight work on indie cartoons and stuff on here on YouTube. So it's, something that could help me as well. So, that's really awesome. I'll have to absolutely check that out. But Brooks, thank you so much for coming on my show. Thank you so much for showing me how the sausage is made, on how it's made, right, so to speak. Awesome. Well, thank you very, very much. If there's anything you'd like to say before we get out of here, anything else you would like to plug, please feel absolutely free to do so.
Justin, thank you so much for reaching out. And I'm super happy to be on your show and be interviewed by you. And good luck with your podcast.
Thank you so much.
The Wall Street Journal called How It's Made TV's quietest hit. Rita Mullen, the general manager of the Science Channel, was quoted as saying, "I think what is one of the greatest appeals of the show as a viewer myself is how little has changed over the years." And I agree. The simplicity of How It's Made was what made its career so long and so appealing to so many people. And after talking directly with Brooks, I can say that this show now has an even bigger part of my heart. But thank you again to Brooks for coming on the show, and thank you to Allie, his booking agent, as well, for getting this whole thing set up. Thank you. And if you're an aspiring voiceover professional or voice actor or a boss at a company who's just looking to make a bigger impact during a meeting, go check out Brooks's course. I will have a link to it down below in the description. And as always, thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you liked the video, and I will see you guys again in 2 weeks with another sick topic. I got nothing.